If you like ambient, weird, spatial instruments, audio effects that are super easy to use, full of happy accidents, you're in the right place. In this video, I'm going to give an overview of the Atmobits bundle. It's a collection of 8 MaxforLive devices orientated towards the creation of unusual timbres and soundscapes that are tiny, fast, and powerful. I'm going to give you an overview of what each one of them does and go over all the different controls. Let's jump to it. So first up is Bitmask, the glitch blender. The Bitmask is a digital synth that smashes simple waveforms together using bitwise logic. Sounds weird? Don't worry, we're just going to click around and see what happens. Now this synth has been divided into 2 sections. We have the global settings here and we have the structure settings here. The global deals with envelope and effects. So we have attack, decay, sustain, release. Then we have this fairy section here. The fairy section is a sort of reverb, like a space effect. It adds an airy shimmer and turns up the dreamy textures. Let's first hear that off and on. So here's off. Let's bring that one in. Nice. Play around with the release a little bit. Nice. Now this is the fun part, the structure section. It's basically the digital brain of Bitmask. It's how the waveforms are combined, modulated, and messed with. Each square is a block that generates a tone or processes it. The colors show the different functions or signal types. Yellow are usually waveform sources or bitwise logic operations. Pink and purple are the modifiers or the variations. The orange bar at the bottom here is the output or mixer stage, and the black or grayed out slots here are bypassed or empty slots. It's quite hard to understand where to start with this, and that's where this little red dot comes in handy. This randomizes all the parameters. So let's flick this and see what textures we can get. Wow, nice. Nice, let's leave it there. Next up is Drainst. I think I'm pronouncing that right anyway. But it's an evolving harmonic machine. It's an additive synthesizer made simple. It has 15 oscillators in 3 groups: harmonics, inharmonics, and subharmonics, all with controllable curves. Let's have a look at this one. So here it is. We have similar global controls. We have attack, decay, sustain, release, and then we have a master output. We also have this switch down here, which is the harmonics, inharmonics, and subharmonics. And that's how we can access all the controls for each one of those 3 groups. Then in each one, we have duration, which is how long each oscillator plays for. Waveform, so that selects the shape of the oscillator waveform, for example, sine or square wave. And gain controls how much volume you're going to hear of that oscillator group. Then the right-hand side here, we have amplitudes and pannings. Each one of the lines in here represents the oscillator you're editing. You can reset and have straight lines like this and actually click and draw your own points in like this on each one of the oscillators. Or you can simply click here and get random shapes. Choose individual ones or have loads of different ones generated for you. So let's go and generate all of them again. Let's do the same for pannings. And let's hear how that sounds. Nice, it's got a really cool sort of toy-like sound to it. Now let's go to the inharmonics and randomize this. Let's hear the same thing again. The toy has gone to hell. Sounds pretty cool. So now we're in subharmonics. I'm going to put the waveform down the bottom here, and we've got some kind of a churchy organ sort of sound going on here. So it's these inharmonics. When we go in here and we set a load of these like this, that's where you get more of the gnarly sort of. Yeah, so that's a really cool sound going on there. We can create some like dreamy pads with this. So add in a long attack. Turning off these inharmonics here, putting up the release, putting some pannings there. Next up is Droplet, which is an audio effect this time, but an audio effect with a difference. Basically, a granular scatterer. The Droplet will take a tiny fragment of the sound you put into it and scatter it and throw it around everywhere. Think little tiny raindrops of audio. Let's have a look at it. So here's Droplet here. We can load a sample by clicking here, and I'm just going to choose a harp, open. Can normalize the sample to make it nice and loud, and it's ready to be played. So obviously we have the sample loader here. We can load it, normalize it, but we can also record into it. So we could put this at the end of a synth. We have a wet, we have pitch shift, and then we have master volume. Now down here we have a bunch of controls. FDRS stands for faders. This controls the overall volume movement of the droplets. Then we have the chunk length. This is the size of the droplets, whether it's short or long. Then we have slowest speed, which is the minimum playback speed of the grains. Then we have fastest speed, which is the fastest playback of the speed. Then we have the droplet density. So the number of droplets there are, the more, the fuller the sound, less sparser the sound. Then we have droplet repetition, how often the droplets repeat to create an echo-like effect. And then random panning, how wide and random the droplets appear in the stereo image. That's enough talking, Craig. Let's hear it. Oh, okay, so let's bring the faders down. Let's chunk it up a little bit. Put fast up as well and the slowest speed down. Nice. Let's bring the shift down. Some weird dreamy. Let's bring the droplets down a little bit. Let's bring the chunk up a little bit. Nice. That's cool. Shift it right up this time. Cool, yeah. So that is Droplet. And remember, you can use that as an audio effect at the end of the chain. So I can load an instrument like Drift, grab this audio effect and drag it on the end of this. So now what I can do is I can record into this. I can have it as a real-time effect if I leave record on. I just play into it. I can turn the record off and bring the wet down so I can play on top of it. Yeah, loads of fun with that. That's a really cool addition that you can record into it in real time, take a snapshot, or just use it as like a granular effect at the end of your chain. Okay, now we're on to Fatmos. Here's Fatmos. This is a real-time atmospheric effect. It takes an incoming audio signal, layers it with echoes, buries it with reflections and stereo movement. I'm going to turn it off here and then play you the sound I have. So I have this sound here. And then if I bring in Fatmos, at the top here, we have repeats, which is the number of echo repetitions. Then underneath, we have fractures. This controls how chopped up the echoes are. Higher equals more broken and splintered, or lower is more whole. Then we got the detune, which detunes the repeats and adds shimmer and wobble. Then smear is smearing. It blurs the echoes together. Higher, more ambient and less defined. Let's bring that down. Then we have a randomized section. And we also have a bypass. We also have a master output. Super simple to use that one, but as you can hear, really, really interesting sounds going on there. For really long ambient reverbs, turn the repeats all the way up, the detune about halfway up, and the smear all the way up. Let's hear that one. Fantastic. Now let's jump back into the instrument world and let's look at Perfume. This is an FM synth without the headache. It looks similar to the other instruments we were looking at. We have some global effects down here, which we have attack, decay, sustain, release. Then we have a tail section here, which adds an atmospheric space to the sound. Then we have some FM parameters down the middle section here, which we have modulation attack, which is how quickly the modulation comes in. Then we have the modulator decay, how quickly the modulation fades. Then we have modulation sustain, it's the sustain level for the modulator. Then we have the modulation frequency ratio. This controls the pitch relationship between the modulator and the carrier, drastically changing the tone. So we're definitely playing with that in a second. Then we have the FM depth amount. This is how much the modulation affects the carrier. Higher means more metallic and bright. Then we have D8 octave doubler. Adds a version of the sound 1 octave higher, great for depth and weight. So here we have some chords in the background here. Nice. So let's bring up this weight. Fantastic sounds. So down here we got the mod and carrier section as well. So the top yellow section here is the modulator and the bottom red section here is the carrier. The red one here is the main sound you hear. The modulator, the yellow one, is the shape that distorts the carrier's pitch. The more complex waveforms equals more harmonics and more textures. So if we simplify it like this, let's do a more simple thing there. Let's bring that. Yeah, so you can see there, you can get anything from smooth pads to some really gnarly FM sounds. Next up is another instrument. This is Pokepad. This is pads done right. This is a drone pad machine with everything you need built right into it. So we have similar global parameters here: attack, decay, sustain, release. Then we have a detune section. Then we have an air section here, which adds brightness, high end, shimmer, like a high shelf or subtle chorus. Then we have a tail, which is a reverb, spatial delay, which makes things sit wider and further back in the mix. Then we have brightness, which adds some harmonics to make it a little bit brighter. Then we have filter type. This switches the tone of the filter. Then we have filter cutoff. Then we have filter bandwidth. Okay, so let's drag across that same patch sound and let's hear it. So this is your more classic Juno sort of sound. Let's choose a different filter cutoff point. Let's choose a different filter type. A bandpass here. Let's try the tail up. The air up as well. Yeah, not much we can do with this one, but we don't need to do much. It has that sound. That was a really quick traditional Juno sound we got there. That's awesome. Next up is Vapasar. It's a 5-way sample morpher. And just like Droplet, we have a window here to load a sample. So I'm just going to load a sample here. Try the same one, the prayer bowl. And we're in. And then I can normalize it. This is a sample playback, and it has 5 playbacks or replicas of your original sound. Each one can move differently through the sound, independently scrubbing, can sit different spots in the stereo field, play louder or softer, or be shaped in its own movement pattern. So instead of just looping a sample, Vapasa gives you 5 independent voices, each doing their own thing. Great for glitchy textures, ambient pads, and constantly shifting loops. So let's have a look at this. Top bit here, we've got faders. This fades in and out of each of the chunks. Then we have the lengths of the chunks. So sets the length relative to the entire sample length or the chunks that can be selected. Then we have the playback rate of the chunks from 5% to 100%. Then we have this adjustable degrade amount, which does the bit depth and sample rate, given that lo-fi bit. And then we can keep or change chunk 1 after each cycle. So I can have a pattern of the cycles turning off and on there. Then I can decide if I want to change each chunk after the first cycle. So I'm going to do a pattern of them like that there. Okay, so let's hear this in action. Decrease the length, increase the playback speed, so you can hear it. See it scanning round. If I increase the length and decrease this playback speed, get more of an ambient texture like that. Let's get rid of some of these chunks here. Cool, and then you can put some effects on it and delay. Awesome, really cool effect, that one. And last but not least, we have Wotwisp. So this is a spectral wisp machine. This is your secret source layer. It's going to pull spectral tones from your inputted audio signal. So we have 3 input types. We can select a constant noise, an intermittent noise, and external audio input. Then we have the spectrum LFO movement. This modulates the frequency bands active over time. So the higher it is, the faster, more chaotic the flickering. The lower it is, the slower, more driftier the sound. And then we have a wet balance. Okay, so I'm going to put the incoming audio signal here, and that is the noise that's triggering that. If I do this, this is an intermittent noise, and this is a constant noise. If we bring that wet dry down. Nice. Okay. So if you're into ambient, evolving, spatial textures, this pack is your new playground. So go grab a copy, and I'll hopefully see you in the next video. Bye for now.